The sky above Earth was no longer a sky. It was a wound. From orbit, the planet's atmosphere glowed with streaks of violent light, long incandescent scars tearing across continents like claws dragged through living flesh. Entire cloud systems ignited in silent blooms. Cities vanished beneath expanding spheres of fire. Oceans churned where impacts struck deep enough to shake the bones of the world. Space itself seemed to burn. Fragments of satellites drifted like metallic ash. Defense platforms that had once circled the planet in perfect geometry now tumbled in broken spirals, their hulls torn open, their lights flickering like dying stars. The combined fleets of humanity hung scattered across near-Earth orbit, a graveyard of crippled vessels and desperate survivors. No formation held. No line endured. The invasion had shattered them too quickly. The alien armada moved with terrifying calm, vast structures sliding through space like blades through water. Their ships were sharp, angular, impossibly clean, untouched by the chaos they created. They did not rush. They did not hesitate. Their movements carried the cold certainty of a force that had never known defeat. To them, Earth was not a battlefield. It was an execution. Inside the command station Aegis Prime, Admiral Nathaniel Rourke stood motionless before the central observation display. His reflection flickered in fractured glass, uniform scorched, collar darkened with soot, eyes hollowed by sleepless hours. Below him, Earth burned. Not symbolically. Not metaphorically. Burned. The eastern seaboard of North America glowed like a furnace. Across Europe, entire regions pulsed with spreading fires. Asia's night side was illuminated by chains of destruction bright enough to rival daylight. Storm clouds boiled, turning black, then red, then simply gone. Millions of lives ended in seconds. Millions more waited. Orbital Defense Network? Broadcast. His voice was steady. The silence that followed was not. Commander Ishan Patel stared at his console, jaw clenched, fingers trembling slightly above failing systems. The numbers on his display updated in cruel increments. Down to 11%, sir. A nearby console sparked violently, showering the deck with glowing fragments. No one flinched. No one even looked. They had grown used to things breaking. Fleet cohesion? Patel swallowed. Non-existent. The word landed like an impact. Across the station, officers fought to maintain fragments of control. Emergency lighting cast the command deck in alternating red and shadow. Smoke drifted through ventilation systems strained beyond capacity. Damage alarms wailed continuously, no longer warnings but background noise. Humanity's shield was collapsing. And everyone knew it. On the bridge of the cruiser TSS Valkyrie, Captain Elena Sato gripped the armrests of her command chair as her ship shuddered under another near miss. The tactical display in front of her had devolved into madness, friendly markers blinking out faster than systems could track. Shields failing. Port batteries offline. Engine output unstable. Every report sounded the same. Every report meant death. Return fire, Sato ordered. The weapons officer hesitated only a fraction of a second. Captain, they're not even targeting us. Another alien beam lanced through space, not toward the Valkyrie, but through a cluster of evacuation transports fleeing toward the planet's shadow. For a brief moment, dozens of human vessels glowed brilliantly. Then they were gone. Sato's hands tightened. Return fire anyway. Human cannons discharged in defiance, bursts of brilliant energy racing across the void. The shot struck alien shielding and dissolved instantly, like rain against stone. The alien ships did not respond. They did not need to. On Earth's surface, terror unfolded without pause. In what remained of Sao Paulo's underground transit systems, thousands crowded into tunnels never designed to hold so many. Emergency lights flickered. The air was thick with heat, fear, and the distant thunder of impacts shaking the city above. A young boy pressed against his mother's side. "Mama, why is it so loud?" She could not answer. Above them, a section of skyline ceased to exist. The sound arrived seconds later. Across the Pacific, naval forces launched missiles toward targets they could not reach. Fighter squadrons scrambled into skies already claimed by forces beyond comprehension. Military commands issued orders. Civilian governments transmitted reassurances no one believed. The world did not unite. It endured. Back in orbit, debris fields thickened. Escape pods scattered in chaotic swarms, tiny signatures drifting through lethal crossfire. Some were destroyed instantly. Others vanished beneath expanding shockwaves as nearby ships detonated. There was no pattern to survival. Only luck. Inside one spinning pod, Lieutenant Marcus Hale fought to steady his breathing. The small viewport showed nothing but tumbling wreckage and distant flashes of annihilation. His fleet was gone. His squadron erased. His last transmission unanswered. He stared at Earth, blue, burning, heartbreakingly beautiful. "I'm sorry," he whispered. No one heard him. On the alien flagship, calculations continued. Their commander observed the battle through layered sensor arrays, thousands of data streams converging into a single flawless model of human defeat. Population centers, resistance pockets, military assets, all cataloged, measured, prioritized. No emotion colored the analysis. Humanity's destruction was not cruelty. It was efficiency. "They are collapsing faster than projections," an aide reported. The commander's gaze did not shift. They always do. Outside, alien weapons fired in measured intervals, each strike chosen with surgical precision. Continents did not matter. Nations did not matter. Only infrastructure, energy grids, command nodes. Break the nervous system. The body dies. On Aegis Prime, Admiral Rourke watched as another defense platform disappeared from the tactical grid. "How many left?" he asked quietly. Patel's answer came softer than before. "Not enough." Earth rotated beneath them. Still fighting. Still alive. Still burning. The invasion had begun only hours ago. Already, humanity stood at the edge of extinction. And the sky, once a symbol of wonder, of exploration, of infinite possibility, had become a ceiling of fire. There would be no sunrise untouched by smoke. No night unmarred by falling stars. Because the stars were no longer distant. They were weapons. And they were aimed at home. The numbers were merciless. On the command deck of Aegis Prime, percentages updated with mechanical indifference, each fractional decline carrying the weight of millions of lives. The central tactical display pulsed softly, a vast sphere of orbiting markers, threat vectors, and failing defensive grids. Humanity reduced to statistics. Orbital defense network at 9%, Commander Patel reported. No one reacted. Shock required surprise. There was none left. Admiral Rourke leaned forward slightly, eyes fixed on the rotating holographic Earth. Entire regions flickered under layered bombardment models. Population centers, once dense clusters of light, dimmed one by one. "How many platforms remain operational?" 17 confirmed, Patel answered. 14 combat capable. 17. Once there had been over 300. A lifetime of engineering. Decades of planetary defense planning. The pride of Earth's unified military doctrine, erased in hours. Another update chimed. Fleet integrity, 21%, 19%. The sound was small. The implication catastrophic. Across near-Earth orbit, human vessels struggled to obey commands that arrived seconds too late. Coordinated formations had dissolved into scattered resistance pockets, isolated ships fighting battles they could not win. On the bridge of the destroyer TSS Kestrel, Lieutenant Commander Ava Renner stared at a screen filled with impossible odds. "Enemy vessels still increasing," her sensor officer said. Renner blinked. "Increasing?" "Yes, ma'am." New signatures emerging beyond lunar orbit. The display zoomed outward. Hundreds. Then thousands. Then numbers beyond immediate comprehension. The alien armada had not fully committed. What humanity faced so far was only the advance force. Renner's throat tightened. "Transmit update to command." "Already sent." There was a pause. Command priority queue delay, 4 minutes. For minutes. In a battle where ships died every 10 seconds. Back aboard Aegis Prime, casualty projections scrolled silently along the lower data bands. Global infrastructure loss, 63%. Planetary energy grid failure, 41%. Civilian fatality estimate, unstable. Even the machines struggled to keep pace with extinction. Continental command centers? Broadcast. Patel hesitated. Europe offline. A flicker on the display. Eastern Asia command silent. Another flicker. North American coordination failing. Humanity's brain was shutting down. Not destroyed all at once. Disconnected. Piece by piece. Outer colonies? Broadcast. The question carried no hope now, only obligation. Patel's voice was quieter. All long-range channels dark. No reinforcements. No fallback. No second line of defense. Earth was alone. Again, the numbers shifted. Planetary shield coverage, 12%, 10%, 8%. Somewhere below, entire cities lost their final layer of protection. On Earth's surface, the effects were immediate. In what remained of Tokyo's defensive perimeter, the sky fractured like glass. A lattice of shimmering energy collapsed under sustained alien fire, dissolving into fading sparks before vanishing entirely. Seconds later, the bombardment began. Buildings evaporated. Streets vanished. Sound itself seemed to tear apart. Deep beneath the ruins of Berlin, emergency shelters received their final system update. Structural integrity, 34%. Power reserves, 18 minutes. People stared at screens. At one another. At nothing. Numbers had become a countdown to death. In orbit, the fleet display thinned. Fleet strength, 17%. Human ships no longer died in clusters. They died alone. On the cruiser Valkyrie, Captain Sato watched as 3 friendly markers ahead of her blinked out simultaneously. What happened? Unknown weapon signature, her tactical officer answered. The sensor feed replayed. Space distorted. Light bent. Then 3 ships ceased to exist. No explosion. No debris. Just absence. The alien fleet was deploying new systems. Adaptation in real time. Back on the alien flagship, the commander observed updated projections. Human resistance duration? An aide ran the models again. Initial estimate, 18 hours. A recalibration. Revised estimate, 8 hours. Another recalibration. 6 hours. The commander nodded faintly. They degrade faster once collapse cascades begin. Humanity's destruction was no longer theoretical. It was scheduled. On Aegis Prime, Admiral Rourke studied the shrinking defensive sphere. How long? He asked. The strategist did not look up. At current attrition rates. The pause. 4 hours until complete orbital failure. 4 hours. For a planet. For a species. For everything humanity had ever been. Silence spread across the deck. Not dramatic. Not stunned. Just heavy. Numbers had done what weapons could not. They had made defeat undeniable. On Earth, billions still lived. But survival curves steepened. Every percentage drop now meant exponential death. Every minute erased entire futures. Fleet strength, 14%. Defense grid, 6%. Planetary shield, 5%. The figures blinked like a heartbeat slowing toward its final beat. Admiral Rourke straightened slowly. For hours they had fought physics. 4 hours they had fought probability. 4 hours they had fought inevitability. The numbers had won. And everyone in the room knew it. Earth rotated below them. Burning. Beautiful. Dying by mathematics. On the surface, the war was no longer strategy. It was survival measured in breaths. Deep beneath the shattered remains of what had once been Mumbai's financial district, Shelter Complex 47 held more than 5,000 civilians. The facility had been designed for emergencies, earthquakes, floods, industrial disasters. Not extinction. The air was hot. Recycled. Too thin for comfort. Emergency lighting painted the reinforced corridors in dull amber, flickering occasionally as distant impacts rippled through layers of steel and stone. Dust drifted constantly from unseen fractures above. No one complained. Complaints required energy. A little girl sat curled beside a structural support column, arms wrapped tightly around her knees. Her name was Anya. She had stopped crying hours ago, not from courage, but exhaustion. Her father knelt beside her. "It's just thunder," he said softly. She looked up at him. Even at 8 years old, she knew better. The ground doesn't shake when it's thunder. He hesitated. Words had become fragile things. Above them, something vast struck the city. The vibration arrived like the hand of a god pressing against the world. People flinched instinctively. Some screamed. Others simply closed their eyes. Across the shelter, screens displayed the same failing metrics. Surface conditions, lethal. Evacuation routes, none. Shield coverage, offline. Hope had been replaced by waiting. In low orbit, Lieutenant Marcus Hale drifted through silence. His escape pod rotated slowly, tumbling end over end through debris fields thick enough to resemble metallic clouds. The viewport revealed fragments of humanity's last stand. Torn hull plating, shattered weapon arrays, lifeless vessels drifting without power. Ghosts in vacuum. Hale's breathing echoed loudly inside the cramped compartment. Each inhale felt heavier. Each exhale felt final. He stared at Earth. Even burning, it was breathtaking. Blue and white wrapped in ribbons of fire. "I thought we'd have more time," he murmured. No alarms answered. No voices replied. Only the distant, indifferent violence of space. On the bridge of the hospital ship Mercy of Dawn, chaos ruled with disciplined desperation. Doctors moved in constant motion. Stretchers lined every available corridor. Medical drones, many damaged, floated erratically between patients. Emergency triage systems struggled under casualty volumes beyond design limits. Next. Vitals dropping. "We're losing him." Captain Idris Kane stood near the central medical bay, jaw tight, watching as another wounded pilot was rushed past, suit torn open, burns crawling across exposed skin. "How many more incoming?" Kane asked. The medical officer didn't look up. All of them. There was no distinction now between battlefield and hospital. Every ship had become both. In what remained of Sao Paulo, Sergeant Lucas Ferraz leaned against a collapsed section of concrete wall, rifle clutched loosely in shaking hands. Smoke choked the skyline. Entire districts burned unchecked. There were no alien ground forces. No invading armies. No enemy soldiers to fight. Only fire from the heavens. Ferraz watched as streaks of light carved through clouds overhead. He had been trained for combat. For tactics. For enemy engagement. Not for helplessness. Beside him, Corporal Mendez stared upward. "They're not even looking at us." Ferraz didn't answer. Another impact erased half a kilometer of cityscape. The shockwave flattened what remained of the street. Dust swallowed everything. Back underground, Anya's father held her tighter. Around them, thousands waited in suffocating uncertainty. Some whispered prayers. Others stared blankly at walls. A few clung desperately to handheld devices replaying old messages from loved ones who might already be gone. A young woman scrolled endlessly through photos. Birthdays. Vacations. Ordinary days that now felt impossibly distant. Above them, civilization collapsed. Below, humanity endured. In orbit, Captain Elena Sato sat alone for a moment. Her bridge was quieter now. Too quiet. Half her crew gone. Several consoles dark. The tactical display showed only scattered human signatures. Fleet strength, 11%. She studied the numbers. Not as an officer, but as a human being. "So this is how we end," she whispered. No one corrected her. Inside his drifting pod, Marcus Hale closed his eyes. Inside her burning city, a mother shielded her son from falling debris. Inside collapsing hospitals, doctors worked with trembling hands. Inside command stations, officers watched statistics become extinction. Across the planet, billions of private tragedies unfolded beneath a sky that had turned hostile. The war was vast, impersonal, cosmic, but its consequences were always intimate, always human. Earth still turned. Humanity still breathed. But survival had become fragile. Temporary. Measured not in years or days, but in moments. On the command deck of Aegis Prime, silence had taken on weight. Not the quiet of calm. The quiet of inevitability. The tactical display rotated slowly above the central command pit, its once dense constellation of human fleet markers now reduced to a sparse scattering of fading lights. Fleet strength, 10%. Orbital defense grid, 4%. Planetary shield coverage, 3%. Numbers no longer shifted gradually. They fell like collapsing stone. Admiral Nathaniel Rourke stood unmoving, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on Earth's burning hemisphere. Entire continents glowed with spreading devastation. Behind him, officers waited. Not for orders. For meaning. Commander Patel finally spoke. "Sir." Rourke did not turn. "Casualty projections?" Patel hesitated only a fraction of a second. "Unrecoverable." The word landed softly. Its impact absolute. Another human cruiser vanished from the display. Then another. Then 3 more. Rourke inhaled slowly. 4 hours they had reacted. 4 hours they had calculated. For hours they had tried to fight probability itself. There was nothing left to calculate. Nothing left to preserve. Only one choice remained. "Open a wideband channel," he said. No one moved at first. Several officers looked up sharply. Wideband meant everyone. Every ship. Every pilot. Every surviving human signal within range. Patel's voice was careful. "Admiral, transmission priority?" Rourke's reflections stared back at him from fractured glass. "Maximum." The command deck stirred. Communications systems, many damaged, struggled to assemble a coherent broadcast grid. Signals bounced through failing relays. Data integrity warnings flared across consoles. Somehow, the channel opened. Across orbit, inside drifting pods, within shattered ships, through burning skies and underground shelters, human receivers crackled to life. Static filled the void. "This is Admiral Nathaniel Rourke." His voice carried without strain. Without hesitation. Without fear. On the bridge of the Valkyrie, Captain Sato froze. Inside his escape pod, Marcus Hale's eyes snapped open. Deep underground, emergency speakers hummed across shelters worldwide. Even amid planetary destruction, humanity listened. "We are outmatched." The words were simple, unadorned. "We are outgunned." Another human vessel disappeared from orbit. "We are losing." No denial. No illusion. No false comfort. Only reality. On Aegis Prime, officers stared in stunned silence. This was not how commanders spoke at the end. But Rourke continued. "Earth may fall today." Across orbit, pilots clenched their jaws. Crew members gripped failing consoles. Civilians held their breath. There was a pause. Not hesitation. Precision. But we will not surrender. Something shifted. Not in systems. In people. On the destroyer Kestrel, Ava Renner straightened. Inside burning streets, soldiers lifted their heads. Inside drifting escape pods, trembling hands steadied. "We do not fight because we believe we will win." Rourke's voice remained calm. Measured. Controlled. "We fight because this is our home." Earth rotated silently beneath the fleets. Burning. Alive. Because behind us are our families. A mother in Sao Paulo closed her eyes. A father in Shelter Complex 47 tightened his grip on his daughter. Our history. Ancient cities flickered under bombardment. Our future. Children stared upward at trembling ceilings. We are human. The words landed like ignition. Not loud. Not dramatic. But absolute. And humanity does not kneel to extinction. Something primal answered. Across orbit, damaged ships adjusted course. Pilots wiped blood from their eyes. Weapons officers rearmed failing cannons. Engineers pushed reactors beyond safety thresholds. Not because survival was likely. Because surrender was impossible. On the alien flagship, the commander observed unexpected movement patterns. Human fleet activity increasing. He narrowed his gaze. "Explain." "They are converging, Commander." There was confusion now. "They are charging." On the Valkyrie, Captain Sato exhaled slowly. Her tactical officer stared. Captain, orders? Sato's eyes hardened. You heard the Admiral. Human vessels surged forward. Broken cruisers. Half-dead destroyers. Civilian craft armed with mining lasers. Escape pods with attached weapon modules. Everything that could move moved toward the alien line. On Earth's surface, people looked up. They saw streaks of light rising against falling fire. Tiny defiant signatures climbing into impossible odds. Somewhere deep inside the human psyche, a switch flipped. Fear became fury. Despair became defiance. Hopelessness became purpose. On Aegis Prime, Rourke watched the fleet respond. His voice softened slightly. If this is our final stand, the tactical sphere filled with converging human trajectories, then we will make it one the universe remembers. The channel remained silent. No cheers. No acknowledgements. None were needed. Humanity had already answered. With engines. With weapons. With will. The dying fleet surged like a wounded animal refusing the blade. And for the first time since the invasion began, the battle changed shape. The sacrifice lasted exactly 43 seconds. That was how long humanity's final charge survived against the full response of the alien fleet. 43 seconds of defiance. 43 seconds of impossible courage. 43 seconds before physics reasserted its cruelty. Across near-Earth orbit, human vessels were erased in blinding chains of light. Alien weapons discharged with cold precision, beams and projectiles slicing through converging ships like scythes through mist. Cruisers vanished mid-burn. Destroyers broke apart before completing firing sequences. Civilian craft detonated in expanding spheres of incandescent debris. It was not a battle. It was execution accelerated. On the bridge of the Valkyrie, Captain Elena Sato gripped her command chair as two friendly vessels ahead of her disappeared simultaneously. No evasive window. Multiple weapon locks. Impact. White light swallowed the forward display. The Valkyrie's shields collapsed instantly. Hull integrity alarms screamed. Somewhere in orbit, Ava Renner's destroyer died without completing its final transmission. Somewhere else, Marcus Hale's escape pod spun violently as shockwaves tore through debris fields. 43 seconds. Then silence reclaimed the void. Fleet strength, 6%. On Aegis Prime, Admiral Rourke watched the markers fade. One by one. Then faster. Then too fast to count. No one spoke. There were no words left for extinction measured in heartbeats. And then, Sir. Commander Patel's voice did not sound like his own. Rourke did not turn. Another ship vanished. Sir. Something in Patel's tone cut through the suffocating despair. Rourke looked up. Patel stared at his console. Not in fear. In confusion. We're detecting something. The command deck froze. In war, confusion was rare. In defeat, impossible. Rourke stepped closer. Clarify. Patel's screens flickered violently. Data streams cascaded in unstable floods. I don't understand this. The tactical display shuddered. Glitched. A new signature appeared. Far beyond lunar orbit. At the edge of sensor range. It did not arrive with velocity. It did not emerge from warp. Simply existed. On the display, space itself warped around the anomaly. Stars stretched unnaturally. Light bent like distorted reflections in liquid glass. Sensor arrays screamed in protest. Mass readings unstable. No drive signature. Energy profile impossible. Across the deck, alarms erupted in overlapping chaos. Even the machines were confused. On the alien flagship, identical alerts detonated across command systems. Commander! The alien officers recoiled. Their pristine displays fractured into cascading error patterns. Unknown object detected. Origin indeterminate. Spatial distortion increasing. The commander's gaze hardened. Magnify. The image expanded, and uncertainty entered the room for the first time. The anomaly was vast. Not merely large. Vast in a way sensors struggled to define. Its outline refused stability. Edges flickered between existence and absence. Light curved unnaturally around it, as if reality itself resisted its presence. On Earth's surface, instruments worldwide spiked. Seismic systems triggered without impacts. Magnetic fields fluctuated wildly. In ancient observatories long abandoned, dormant systems flickered briefly to life. Deep underground, people felt it. A low vibration. Not sound. Pressure. A sensation like standing too close to something incomprehensibly large. Inside his drifting pod, Marcus Hale's failing sensors surged back to life. Warning systems flickered erratically. Then stabilized. What? His viewport filled with distortion. Stars bending. Light twisting. Something enormous unfolding at impossible distance. On Aegis Prime, the tactical display struggled to resolve scale. Size estimates looped endlessly. Failed. Recalculated. Failed again. Natural phenomenon? An officer whispered. No known physics match. Is it a weapon? No charge signature detected. Then what is it? No one had an answer. Because nothing like this had ever been recorded. In orbit, alien weapons paused momentarily. Targeting systems faltered. Predictive models collapsed into error cascades. For the first time since the invasion began, the alien fleet hesitated. Admiral Rourke stared at the distortion. Fleet losses continued. But slower. Not by mercy. By confusion. Patel's voice trembled. It wasn't there. Rourke's eyes narrowed. What? Seconds ago, sir. The anomaly loomed silently at the edge of reality. It wasn't there. Across space, across fleets, across a dying solar system, something impossible had appeared. Without a rival. Without explanation. Without obeying any known law. And for the first time since Earth began to burn, both sides of the war felt the same thing. Not fear. Not hope. But uncertainty. The anomaly did not advance. It unfolded. Across the tactical displays of both fleets, distortion thickened like reality struggling under invisible weight. Stars near the object stretched into luminous arcs. Light itself curved, twisted, fractured into impossible geometries. Space was no longer behaving like space. On Aegis Prime, sensor arrays pushed beyond safe operating limits. Resolution collapsing. Gravitational readings fluctuating. Mass estimates contradicting. The central display attempted stabilization. Failed. Retried. And slowly, the distortion began to thin. Not abruptly. Deliberately. Like mist withdrawing before something ancient and immense. Admiral Rourke leaned forward, eyes fixed. The shape emerging was vast beyond comprehension. Not a vessel in any human sense. Not a structure designed by recognizable engineering logic. It was wrong. Wrong in scale. Wrong in geometry. Wrong in a way the human brain resisted categorizing. Lieutenant Marcus Hale stared through his viewport, breath caught somewhere between lungs and disbelief. Dear God? The object's hull was not metallic. Not reflective. It was darkness given form. Not black. Not absence. But depth. A surface that seemed to drink starlight rather than reflect it. Along its colossal body, faint lines of soft luminescence pulsed slowly, vast arcs of pale energy flowing like veins beneath cosmic skin. No engines burned. No weapons charged. Yet the surrounding void bent subtly, as if the universe itself adjusted to accommodate its presence. On the alien flagship, silence spread like contagion. The commander's aides stared at displays no longer behaving predictably. No propulsion signature. No weapon activation. Commander, it is simply there. For the first time in countless campaigns, the commander did not answer immediately, because something unfamiliar had entered his calculations. Unknown. Unquantifiable. Unacceptable. On Earth's surface, the effects intensified. Magnetic storms erupted across continents. Auroras bled across skies already scarred by bombardment. Atmospheric systems trembled. Deep underground, people felt it more strongly now. A pressure in the bones. A vibration beneath thought itself. Inside Shelter Complex 47, Anya clutched her father's arm. Papa, what is that? Emergency screens flickered. Visual feeds struggled to resolve the sky. And beyond burning clouds, something vast blotted out stars. Back in orbit, humanity's remaining ships fell silent. Weapons officers forgot consoles. Pilots forgot fear. Entire fleets, human and alien alike, stared at the same impossible presence. The object continued its slow revelation. Immense curved structures extended along its body, flowing not with rigid mechanical precision but with eerie organic smoothness. Massive arcs intersected without visible joints. Surfaces shifted subtly, as if composed of matter not entirely fixed in physical law. Sensors screamed. Material composition, undefined. Energy signature, unstable. Dimensional readings, error. Lieutenant Hale's pod drifted silently as he struggled to comprehend scale. The thing dwarfed fleets, dwarfed moons, dwarfed expectation itself. It did not look like a war machine. It looked like something that existed beyond war. On Aegis Prime, a junior officer whispered the thought no one dared speak. That's not a ship. No one corrected him, because every instinct agreed. Ships were built, designed, engineered, felt ancient, primordial. Alien commander displays flickered violently. Predictive threat models failed entirely. Classification systems returned a single repeating output. No match. Across the alien fleet, something unprecedented occurred. Formation coherence degraded. Not from attack. From hesitation. From uncertainty rippling through command hierarchies built on absolute superiority. The massive presence shifted. Not accelerating. Not maneuvering. But drifting forward with slow, terrifying inevitability. Its movement carried no urgency. No aggression. Only scale. And certainty. As it moved, space itself distorted more violently. Stars bent. Sensor grids fractured. Targeting systems destabilized. Alien weapons locked. Then failed. Locked again. Failed again. On Earth, bombardment streaks faltered mid-descent. Several beams bent unnaturally. Others dissolved entirely. The sky, for the first time since the invasion began to quiet. On Aegis Prime, Admiral Rourke felt something he had not felt in hours. Not hope. Something stranger. Something deeper. It's interfering with them. Patel stared at impossible readings. Yes, sir. The massive presence drifted between Earth and the alien armada. Slow. Silent. Unstoppable. And every being watching, human and alien alike, understood a single, bone-deep truth. Something far beyond this war had arrived. The alien commander recovered first. Uncertainty was unacceptable. Unknown variables were to be eliminated. All units, he ordered, voice sharp with restored authority. Fire. Across the armada, weapons awakened. Hundreds of alien vessels discharged simultaneously, beams of condensed energy, kinetic lances, gravitic projectiles tearing through vacuum in converging storms of annihilation. Space lit like a dying sun. On Aegis Prime, warning alarms screamed. Multiple high-yield signatures. Impact trajectories locked. Patel's voice shook. They're hitting it with everything. Admiral Rourke did not move. He could not. Because the impossible presence did not react. The storm of alien fire reached the anomaly. And vanished. Not deflected. Not absorbed. Vanished. Entire beams dissolved mid-flight, like light encountering something that simply refused its existence. Kinetic projectiles decelerated instantly, frozen in space for a fraction of a second before disintegrating into drifting clouds of inert particles. Shock rippled through both fleets. On the alien flagship, silence shattered. Commander! Weapon systems reporting failure. Energy dissipation unexplained. The commander's eyes widened slightly, a microscopic fracture in centuries of conditioned superiority. Fire again. More weapons discharged. The result did not change. Attacks collapsed into nothingness. Reality itself seemed to deny them. Lieutenant Marcus Hale stared through his viewport, breath ragged. That's not shielding. Because shielding resisted force. This erased it. The massive presence drifted forward. Unharmed. Unbothered. Unstoppable. On Earth's surface, something miraculous occurred. Bombardment streaks ended mid-sky. Impact ceased. Shockwaves died. For the first time since the invasion began, silence touched the planet. Across burning cities, people looked upward in disbelief. Inside shelters, trembling hands lowered. Inside hospitals, exhausted doctors froze. The sky was quiet. On Aegis Prime, Patel's voice cracked. It's blocking all incoming fire. Admiral Rourke's chest tightened. How? No known mechanism. Because no known mechanism could do this. Across the alien fleet, chaos erupted. Targeting systems looped. Weapons refused discharge. Sensor arrays flooded with cascading contradictions. And then, the presence emitted a pulse. Not bright. Not violent. A low, deep wave that rippled across space like the universe itself had exhaled. Every alien ship reacted instantly. Lights flickered. Shields collapsed. Engines stuttered violently. Entire systems failed without damage signatures. On the alien flagship, all power grids destabilizing. Control systems failing. Commander, we're losing synchronization. For the first time, fear entered the alien command hierarchy. The presence moved again. Its faint luminescent lines brightened softly. Not aggressive. Judgmental. Across every active channel, a signal emerged. Not alien. Not synthetic. A voice filled the void. Measured. Impossibly vast. You judged the species by its weakness. On Aegis Prime, every officer froze. Because the voice was clear. Perfect. And unmistakably human. Patel's eyes widened. Sir. The voice continued. You measured them by their present. Across the alien fleet, systems collapsed in cascading waves. Ships drifted helplessly. Weapons dead. Engines silent. You failed to understand their nature. On the alien flagship, the commander gripped his console. Impossible. Unacceptable. Unthinkable. Humanity does not yield. Across orbit, surviving human vessels stabilized unexpectedly. Failing reactors steadied. Damaged systems rebooted. Weapons recalibrated. Lieutenant Hale gasped as his pod's controls flickered back online. What is happening? The presence drifted fully between Earth and its executioners. A wall of impossible scale. A force beyond resistance. This conflict is terminated. Alien ships attempted retreat maneuvers. Many failed. Navigation systems unresponsive. Command networks fractured. You will depart. The alien commander's voice broke into fury. All ships, retreat. But retreat required functioning fleets. And the presence had already decided. Its luminescent lines brightened once more. Space itself seemed to tighten. And suddenly, the alien armada moved. Not by engines. By force. Ships were pulled backward violently, dragged across space by invisible vectors beyond comprehension. Entire formations collapsed into chaotic disarray as vessels were hurled outward, away from Earth, away from orbit, away from the battlefield. On Aegis Prime, stunned silence reigned. On Earth's surface, people stared at a sky no longer filled with descending fire. Lieutenant Marcus Hale floated motionless, watching as the impossible fleet that had doomed humanity was cast aside like drifting debris. The voice softened. Not gentle. Certain. Humanity stands. And across a burning, wounded world, something extraordinary ignited. Not weapons. Not shields. But belief. For several long seconds, no one moved. Not in orbit. Not on Earth. Not even aboard the shattered remnants of humanity's fleet. Because silence, true silence, had become something alien. On the command deck of Aegis Prime, alarms still flashed, damaged consoles still sparked, emergency systems still struggled to contain cascading failures. But beyond the station's hull, the war was gone. Admiral Nathaniel Rourke stared at the tactical display. Where moments ago there had been annihilation, there was emptiness. The alien armada, vast, unstoppable, mathematically certain, had vanished from near-Earth orbit. Only distant signatures remained, rapidly retreating beyond lunar range, their formations shattered, their coherence broken. Commander Patel spoke first. His voice was barely a whisper. "They're gone." No one answered. Because the human brain required time to accept miracles. On Earth's surface, the change was immediate. Across burning cities, bombardment ceased. Shockwaves faded. The sky, once a ceiling of fire, became still. In Shelter Complex 47, emergency lights flickered as thousands of civilians stared at silent screens. Structural vibrations that had become constant companions simply stopped. Anya blinked. The air felt different. The world felt quiet. "Papa!" Her father looked upward slowly, as though expecting another impact. None came. Above shattered skylines, clouds drifted without violence. For the first time since the invasion began, no weapons fell from the heavens. Across hospitals, doctors froze mid-motion. Across military bunkers, officers stared at sensor feeds. Across battlefields, soldiers lifted stunned eyes. The sky was empty. Back in orbit, Lieutenant Marcus Hale flexed trembling fingers as his pod's controls stabilized fully. Power levels normalized. Life support steady. Navigation systems restored. That's not possible. But impossible had become irrelevant. Around him, damaged human vessels drifted, then slowly began reporting system recovery. Engines hummed where silence had ruled. Shield arrays flickered weakly back to life. Emergency repairs initiated without human input. Confused voices flooded comm channels. Systems rebooting. Reactors stabilizing. Weapons control restored. Shock spread like wildfire. On the Valkyrie, Captain Elena Sato stared at displays no longer screaming death. Hull integrity rising. Shield grid reassembling. What did it do to us? No one had an answer. Because nothing in human history explains salvation at this scale. On Aegis Prime, Admiral Rourke finally spoke. Not as a commander. As a man. Status of Earth? Patel's console flickered. Then stabilized. His eyes widened slowly. Bombardment halted worldwide. The pause. Alien fleet retreating. Another pause. Planetary survival probability. He stopped. The numbers struggled to update. Increasing. No cheers erupted. No triumphant shouts filled the deck. Because relief, when it came at the edge of extinction, was too heavy for celebration. Above Earth, the impossible presence remained. Silent. Unmoving. Its faint luminescent lines pulsed softly, like the slow breathing of something ancient and immeasurably powerful. Humanity stared upward. Across continents. Across oceans. Across ruins still burning. They stared at their savior. At the force that had rewritten certain death. And slowly, emotion returned to the species. In shattered streets, people began to cry. Not from fear. From release. In underground shelters, strangers embraced. In hospitals, exhausted doctors collapsed into trembling relief. Across orbit, hardened soldiers wept openly inside helmets filled with quiet disbelief. Lieutenant Hale pressed a shaking hand against his viewport. Earth still turned. Still burned. Still alive. We survived. On Aegis Prime, Admiral Rourke stood straighter. Not in pride. In awe. Open a channel. Patel blinked. Tigit. Rourke's eyes never left the presence. Yes. The transmission system struggled briefly. Damaged networks, unstable relays, signal integrity warnings cascading across failing hardware. The channel opened. Admiral Rourke spoke into silence. This is Earth. No static answered. No delay followed. The voice returned instantly. Confess. Certain. We know. The words echoed through every human system. Every ship. Every station. Every surviving receiver. Rourke's throat tightened. Who are you? There was a pause. Not mechanical. Measured. We are what humanity becomes. Silence consumed the deck. Across Earth, across orbit, across a species still trembling at the edge of annihilation. Every mind struggled to process the implication. The luminescent lines pulsed once more. So, steady. You stood. Images filled human memory. Burning cities. Collapsing fleets. Final charges against impossible odds. You endured. Shelters. Hospitals. Pilots refusing retreat. You did not yield. The core of HFY itself. The reason this formula works. Admiral Rourke exhaled slowly. Why intervene now? The answer came without hesitation. Because you proved yourselves. Across Earth, billions listened. Humanity has earned its survival. The presence began to shift. Slowly. Gently. Not retreating. Withdrawing. Stars behind it reappeared as reality reclaimed its natural shape. Before vanishing into distortion once more, the voice spoke one final time. Stand again. The pause. And we will always answer. The anomaly dissolved. Space stabilized. And above a scarred but living Earth, only stars remained. Humanity stood. Wounded. Shattered. Alive. And for the first time, certain of something extraordinary. They were not alone in the universe. They never had been.